It's her loss, wherever this woman is.
Amen.
Um,
Amen.
but
Amen.
I really believe that all things happen, for a reason. And so I ended up where I needed to be with who I needed to be with. So,
Amen. Amen. No, that's good talk. I absolutely 100% believe in the sovereignty and providence
absolutely.
of God our Father. And there are times where it looks messy because it is messy.
Correct.
But I've said this to a number of people. I believe that God is what we would consider a mosaic artist, right? For me, God takes all of the broken pieces,
Right.
and he begins to realign them in such a way that when you get up on it, it still looks broken. But when you begin to step back and see what the artist has done, you can see a whole picture. And so I absolutely believe that. I want to ask you something off the cuff as we were talking, as you were talking.
Can
It
I
just
just say
came up.
something real fast?
Yeah, please
I
go ahead,
thought
Doc.
this was a conversation, but you preaching, Rev. You preaching. I thought we were just having a conversation.
Hey, listen, man. All we doing is talking. But look, this what I do. This who I am. Like, it's gonna be hard for somebody to talk to me for 5 to 10 minutes and not ever hear or any reference to Jesus Christ,
Correct.
who is the only God.
Correct.
Okay, so that's just, we on a pursuit of truth. So we might as well speak it, right? We might as well talk about the one true God.
Correct.
Right.
Hold on, let me get my prop.
Hey, look at you. See? And I just want the audience, I just want y'all to notice that his Bible
is huge.
It's not just big. It got a lot of papers in it. You know what that means? He be in there looking at stuff, finding stuff, writing stuff, searching the scriptures to find the truth of God, the deep things of God.
I'm studying to show myself approved.
Amen. That's, you know what? If it ain't your words, right? It ain't my words. That's his word. This is my question off the cuff, man. I've heard people say, and I know how my wife feels about these things, but I've heard people say when it comes to adoption, man, you gonna give that child up for adoption? I want to know how do you feel about that verbiage? Do you feel the verbiage is accurate, where someone's saying you're giving your child up for adoption, as if this person just came and said, you know what, I don't want this child. Boom, I'm giving them away. Yeah, do you think that's an accurate depiction of the process of adoption?
So, yes, and
okay.
I got a little teary-eyed when you said it because I felt it. That was something that I had to pray about all for the most of my adult life, because that's how I felt. So I came through life with a feeling of rejection, right? Because your father can go, your wife can walk out, all of these people can turn their backs on you, but your mother is supposed to be the one and only person that's going to be ride or die. So for many years, I would, even with my birthday, I would say, man, this is, another year. And I think back to the woman who didn't want to have me, who gave me up for adoption. Until God had to change my heart and my perspective. And one of the things that I began to realize is that instead of saying that she gave me up for adoption, I realized that she was unable to be there for me because she was unable to be there for herself.
Okay.
And so my biological mother's dead. She died at the age of 42. So in 1993. And so I had to pray, and God had to remove that hatred and that bitterness and all of that stuff that was in me, because it was killing me slowly. And he reshaped my perspective on it, and I extended grace. And so one of the things I began to do is read about adoptive mothers. And so you think about this, I was born in 1974. And so, they didn't have all of these, groups and stuff like that for adoptive mothers. And so what I started to see, a recurring theme was, often it was women who were underage or women who were
Mm,
young with multiple children, right?
okay.
And so the scenario didn't necessarily present itself, for them to successfully, raise this child, right? In my
Yeah.
incident, my biological mother was 22 years old, and already had one, and 11 months later, well, here I come along, right?
Mm,
And she was involved with a man who was 50. My biological father was 50. I think it was 54, if I'm not mistaken, or 50 something like that.
okay.
Mind you, he was married. So if you
Wow.
look at when you look
Wow.
at the dynamics of it, it was like it starts off bad.
Yeah.
Um,
Wow.
and so when I think about it, and I look at my daughter now who's 22, and I just think sometimes, I'm like, can I imagine her being caught up in all of that? Two
Yeah.
children by a married man who's twice, almost, twice her age, and
Yeah.
that's a lot. And so what I've learned to do was, I had to forgive my biological mother. But then the other thing I will say, is it broke my heart to find out how she suffered. So it wasn't like she just gave up
Mm,
this child and she went on happily ever after the rest of her life. She
yeah.
suffered because of that,
Wow.
addiction, and
Yep.
stuff like that, and ultimately, an untimely death. So I said that to say is we have to be mindful that, it's not, yes, it's a surrender, but many of these mothers suffer,
Yeah.
and they suffer in silence, because now
Amen.
for many people, I wasn't no secret, but for many mothers this is a secret, right? And so
Mm,
they can't just say, oh, I'm just sad because I miss little baby Jane Doe, or
right.
and
Right.
so they suffer with this internally. And so my heart actually goes out to mothers who do that, particularly
They,
from back then, right? It's different because it was, back then in the 70s, it was a closed adoption. And
sure.
so once if you don't, it was just terrible back then.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Um, um, I know other adoptees, and the situations that I've known that they come out of, and hearing uh, what the mother went through. I like what you said. We actually choose to use the verbiage, place. a,
Please.
a, a mother places her child, um, for adoption. And the reason that we choose that is, because every mother who is uh, young, going through whatever they're going through, whether it is just I'm young and I'm 17, 18, I'm not ready for this.
Right.
It is I'm 22, as you said, with your biological mother, where I'm in a world of mess out here, and there's just no way for me to do the what goes through the mother's mind. And I like that you brought out the understanding and idea of the suffering of that parent, right? Um, Now, in your situation, I can only assume that the father had, he's like you said, he was married, so you know, um, good riddance is basically where he probably was at.
Correct.
But I also know, which is very rarely talked about, where there are times when the father wants to 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 keep the child, and there's a battle because the mother just wants to place the child, but and they may or may not be together, and you know people can feel how they want to feel, but the voice of the father should matter
It should.
when he wants to take care of his own biological child, and oftentimes he's not. But I also know that, especially for the others that I know, their mother, was hooked on drugs, and the process that she had to go through to say, I need to get clean, but I need a better life for my child. I am placing my child because I want something better for them
Correct.
that I can't provide. I think that's a missing message, both of the reality of the struggle of those fathers that do want to take part in their child's life and aren't given the opportunity.
Correct.
Because it happens.
Yeah, that wasn't my testimony.
That wasn't exactly that wasn't yours. And often, let's be honest, that's often not that's not the most heard testimony in either. So look, man, as an adoptee, what would you say some of the misconceptions, some of the constructs that we see in culture and some of the misconceptions are about adoption from your perspective, from your journey, from how God brought you, has blessed you with your parents?
You tapped on one, and it's the I think many people just have in their mind that the birth mother just goes off to live happily ever after, and unfortunately that's not the case. They suffer greatly. I think another misconception is I have many friends that who are also who also were adopted, and not everyone has the desire to reunite with a biological or birth family, which is I used to think that it was so strange, but then I just realized that we're all different, and so what's right for one may not be right for all.
Yeah, sure.
So
now, did you have a desire to reunite?
I did. The reason I did was not from a perspective of I wanted to go on Oprah and mom, dad, and hug and all that kind of stuff. For me, it was like I said, I had feelings of rejection. I grew up with that, and so and then I went through the thing of they don't want me, I'll show them, and so I would go hard at everything I did with the hopes of one day meeting her, right, my biological mother, and say, look at me, I turned out okay after all, right?
Yeah.
And so it went from a thing of wanting to do that to gloat, to say, "Ha, you're lost," to a thing of I needed to. I told my wife, and this started like I spent thousands of dollars. This is prior to Ancestry, trying to hire an intermediary. Pretty much a private detective to find someone. Unfortunately, because I'm a New Yorker, they had the sealed adoption laws back then, and so the only thing I knew about her was her age and the hospital that I was born in. So I didn't know her name. Only thing I knew was my birth last name, and so that was pretty hard. But then once Ancestry came out, and I never forget, a coworker told me about it, and I prayed about it, and then I called my parents, my adoptive parents, and I expressed to them. I said, I need to do this. I need to know what I needed to know, medical history. There was just so much that I just needed the why. I didn't need a connection. I just needed a why. And so I asked them for their blessings because I didn't want them to feel offended or slighted or anything like that, because they did the work, right? So I will always honor them. And so they were absolutely, they were like, absolutely. And so I set out on that journey, and my prayer was, God, I don't know what's going on in their life. I thought maybe my biological mother could have been remarried. Maybe her husband didn't know. And I said, God, I don't want to disrupt anyone's life.
Yeah. Amen.
I'm not looking for anything, I'm not, I don't want, it's not inheritance I'm after or anything like that. And so I said, if this is your will, it will manifest something.
Amen.
And so it was through that when I found out that my biological mother was deceased, as well as the biological father. However, I had two brothers, which was interesting. One older, 11 months, and one younger. That was something that I wasn't prepared for.
Wow.
Because now it was a thing of, well, wait a minute. You mean to tell me you had another one and you kept? So
with the same man?
Well, we don't know about that part.
We're not sure. Okay.
We're not sure about that.
Okay.
But still, right? And so it was a thing of, are you kidding me? And so that reopened a wound.
Wow.
it was a wound. But then, you know, that was one of the things that I had to pray about and continually seek God about, because that it just reopened a wound. Oh, and
Yeah.
so press fast forward, and we did this in 2018. And so, you know, me and my brothers, my biological brothers, were like this.
Mm.
My mother calls them her sons.
Okay. Amen.
You
Amen.
know, they'll text each other. You know,
Amen.
and the thing that I think is beautiful is because I was raised in the church, and I
Mm.
had a praying mother and father. When my brothers go through trials or stuff like that, then I can minister to them. And so I think that's one of the
Mm.
things that I find really, really, really great.
Yeah. Hey, so